No, I seriously have no idea what the hell this thing is. Logan is gonna kill me, and I'm running late.
We got the whole crew here today. Kane, where the hell you been? You're out running around in the cold weather?
Yeah, well, you know, it's warm one day, then it's cold the next. It's
what the hell is that hood about? Have you joined a dangerous cult or something?
No, man, I don't. No. I've been practicing safe sects.
Safe sects.
Sects.
Hey, the internet is 25 years old. As of now-ish. I don't know when you're going to watch this. You may watch it in the year 2072, in which case the internet's going to be older. Somebody do the math now. Go.
Well, it's the World Wide Web as we know it. The proposal for the World Wide Web as we know it today, or the thing that became that, was submitted 25 years ago. And we've got the original paper if you want to take a look at it.
Yay, Tim Berners-Lee. This is actually kind of an awesome read. You know what else Tim Berners-Lee's been doing? He's been calling for a Magna Carta for the internet. He says we need one because now the internet is at a spot where things are getting dangerous. And a lot of people out there are getting complacent. In fact, I get emails in my inbox that say, man, I wish you'd stop talking about the NSA and I wish you'd stop talking about Comcast and all these people that are abusing the internet. And that is absolutely not what we are going to do. We are going to continue to talk about this. We're going to continue to raise awareness, and then we hope that you are going to go and inform the people out there that, you know, really have no idea how this all works. But you guys are the evangelists. You got to go out there and tell them that this is an issue that needs to be talked about because it needs to be a right for all people, or else it's going to either be taken away from us or destroyed. And right now it is a beautiful tool, you know, just to share information, education, etc. So anyway, here's Tim Berners-Lee, and a lot of interesting things were said recently. He's been given. Where was the speech at? BBC Radio, and one of the big problems he said is that we are, you know, the surveillance is getting crazier. There's more and more surveillance, and people are getting used to it. And we really got to make sure that we are not used to our rights being, you know, infringed upon. So there's that. Anybody else want to add anything to this?
I have there's an old saying that's popping in my head, and I'm trying to remember the exact wording of it, but it has to do with, you know, those who stand by and say nothing while stuff like these atrocities are going on, when it finally, because it doesn't affect me right now, but...
All it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
I like that.
There you go. Wasn't that Winston Churchill or somebody?
I believe so.
There you go. Let's move right along here. Techies see a future where the web flows like electricity. This is an interesting article, and there's some interesting things talked about here. But the one thing I want to really point out here and kind of pick on a little bit is that electricity is it's a resource that can be used up. What's the word I'm looking for? It's
a resource that requires a lot of input work.
Yeah. Exactly. Someone has to do work. If you're going to reap the benefits of having electricity in your home, there has to be work done somewhere. The internet is totally different than that. Kane, how you gave us a little analogy of the internet, and I think it's better than electricity and it's better than water. And I don't think we really need to be looking at it that way. We can look at it as a series of tubes, or Kane, we can look at it in a different way.
You know, when we first got the internet come about, we used to call it the information superhighway because I think of it in the context of what the internet is supposed to be. I mean, how you get you know, even with the highway, you have to, all this stuff goes into building the roads, but we have this idea that it's this vast collection of interconnected pathways that allow you to go places and see things and get information from afar. I think it has more in common with a road system than it does with electricity or water. I think we describe the flow of traffic even in the same way that we would describe water, or the flow of electricity, the flow of water, flow of traffic on a road system, very similar to you would. So I see it more as like an information superhighway.
Yeah, I mean, let me take that and run with it for just a minute. Now, with roads, and we've covered this in several other videos, so I'll just brush up on this. With roads, you have you know, large roads, small roads, service roads. Things get congested, things need to be rerouted, and that's really the way the internet works. So it is different than electricity. But in some parts of the country, smaller companies are you know, I guess just appearing randomly. In North Carolina, a company called RST Fiber. They've been around for just a few years. They got started up and they built a 3,100 mile, 100 gigabit fiber network. And it's going to provide connectivity all over North Carolina and parts of South Carolina. So, I mean, these guys, they were in a hell of a fight with the current powers that be in that area, whether it's, Comcast, or I forget who's exactly in that area. I believe it's Comcast and AT&T down there. But, they had to fight a lot. And once this is, this infrastructure is laid, this fiber is a beautiful infrastructure because the fiber can handle a lot more than 100 gigabits per second. Or 100 gigabit. It can handle a lot more than that. The only thing that governs how much it can handle is the box of technology you put on either end of the fiber. So this fiber is going to last for the next 100 years. All you have to do is just change out the box on one end to the other.
That is literally what we mean when we say 100-year infrastructure, in that the infrastructure cost, once it's in place, the maintenance cost is very low. And this particular company has taken great pains to bury their fiber optic cable everywhere they can. So it literally is nothing more complicated than replacing electronics at either end. And right now, the connection that they have is 400 gigabit. That's crazy. That at a 10-to-1 oversell ratio, one strand of fiber could support 4,000 Google Fiber customers. But if you're a 10 meg subscriber, like if you're a regular plebeian with AT&T DSL or one of the lower end Time Warner packages, and you've got a 10 megabit connection, that one strand of fiber could support 400,000 customers.
So I think it's really cool to see a smaller local company doing something like this. I really didn't think it was going to be possible for a small company to do something like this. So it's really cool to see that happen. I don't think it's going to be, something that's going to be happening in a lot of other places right now, because right now we're kind of in not exactly the Wild West, but companies are popping up and they're doing things, and companies like Comcast and CenturyLink and Time Warner and Verizon are going to look at this and they're going to be like, kill it with fire. We've got to stop these guys from spreading. We've got to start lacing some pockets in the local Congresses, the local Senates, and that sort of thing. And they're going to try to put a stop to it. So Google Fiber is spreading, and Google Fiber is somebody who can stand up to these companies and say, like, hey, listen, we're going to do our own thing, and you know what, we know what we're doing, and you can't stop us, because we've got our own people who are talking to the lobbyists and et cetera, et cetera.
The reality here is that Google is trying to demonstrate, because actions are louder than words, that it is a bunch of malarkey, that there's a bandwidth shortage and we need to charge more, and these people to watch Netflix are data hogs. The fact of the matter is Google can offer 1,000 megabit, a gigabit connection for marginally more than the middle of the road package from other ISPs, and less than high-end packages from cable ISPs, certainly, and still make a profit.
One thing that's really cool here, and this is sort of a case study, in Chattanooga, there's something called the Gig, and it is local gigabit internet right there in Chattanooga. It's not Google Fiber, it's nothing, it's just their own local thing. And, a lot of different communities around the country have been saying things like, well, what if we build out the infrastructure and nobody needs it? And then the other argument is, if they build it, they will come. And people are kind of standing back and saying, like, should we invest in this? Should we not invest in this? Here's a case study right here. Since they built this, former factory buildings downtown on Main Street, Warehouse Row, Market Street, they've been converted into loft apartments, open space, offices, restaurants, shops. The city is, there's an influx of computer programmers, entrepreneurs, and investors. Let me say the last part of it again. Computer programmers, entrepreneurs, and investors right there. There's your case study. That's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a place. When I think of technology, I do not think of Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's not the first thing that pops into my head. I think of, I didn't even think of Austin several years ago, but now I do think of Austin, San Francisco, maybe Raleigh, Durham, that area of the world, New York, Boston, Seattle, and maybe some other places around, I don't know, but I do not think of Chattanooga, Tennessee. But there it is, attracting programmers, entrepreneurs, and investors. That's really interesting and very cool to see. So we want to kind of put the call out there and say, if you're in a community, start raising your voice. But a lot of the communities are going to reach some heavy feedback from the incumbents. What do you think they should do about that, Wendell?
I think that what do I think the incumbents should do about it, or what
do you
think
think
Google should do about it?
The people on the ground.
Okay, so here is one scenario, and if you guys are interested in hearing more about this, we could probably do this as a separate own show. So it's like, Google is in a game of chicken with these incumbent ISPs. And the incumbent ISPs are too slow and stupid to realize that this is a game of chicken. And Google is like, you know, the smartest people in the room as usual. And they're like, ha ha ha, we will do this. And we will shame these ISPs into doing something else. And before we have a chance to build up Google Fiber all over the country, you know, they'll upgrade their network. And I think that they think that's happening with the cable industry, because this last round of Google Fiber initiatives has targeted areas that are primarily DSL areas, AT&T, slow DSL, you know, crap infrastructure basically. So Google, I think, doesn't realize that these companies are too slow and stupid to realize this is a game of chicken. So Google needs to up the ante.
Google's like, hey, let's play a game with them. And they don't even catch on and realize that the game's being played. Is that what you're saying?
What? What's going on? Fiber? What? I don't understand. No. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Data caps?
Yeah, let's roll out data caps. You know, Time Warner did that. But the situation is, if Google really wanted to up the game, so Google has got all these smart people now that are working toward building out this infrastructure and playing the political games with permits and things like that. If they really wanted to up the ante, what if they sort of switched around the resources they have internally and said, oh, you know, these communities in America that want to bootstrap their own ISP, if we have boots on the ground in these communities, we can coordinate with those and have sort of a grassroots effort to start fiber optic ISPs, and Google can provide education and guidance on exactly what to do and what paperwork to file with local government and city government and state government and whatever else you need to do in order to do that. What if Google put together sort of a new fiber ISP toolkit and sort of, you know, made the calls to major ISPs or brokered deals on your behalf, or, you know, basically set up almost kind of like a think tank, but not really a think tank, but kind of like a resource where local ISPs that really had their stuff together could have an advocate in Google. And so if a small ISP was like, oh, you know, Comcast is playing political games, they're showing up to the town hall meetings and trying to undermine us, like the Free Software Foundation does with lawyers, and Google could do that with their lawyers to protect, you know, bandwidth that's being deployed by the community. You get around the municipal bandwidth problem because a lot of cities are like, oh, we need to get together and do this, but then the incumbents have said, oh, that's not fair because the city's doing it. It's like, all right, why don't we empower small business to do it? So if Google did that, if they recognize that these companies have no idea what's going on, and Google did that, there could be a renaissance overnight in America for rural, high-speed, fiber optic internet, because I think that there are enough intelligent people in the communities of America to pull this off. It's just the barriers to getting started are so high, they need a leg up from somebody like Google.
Especially for the hardware as well, because you mentioned, you know, some of the other things like helping them out with, you know, sending a lawyer to a meeting or something like that. The hardware, because Google does not use the standard, really uber expensive hardware. They're using makeshift hardware that they're putting together basically in cardboard boxes, and then they've got the spaghetti monster in the background. It may look ridiculous. Sometimes it's really cheap, but the software is uber efficient. Maybe if they lent them the software or helped them out with the software or something like that.
Or even became a vendor. I mean, Google is like, look, we've got this Linux-powered super switch that can manage 40 gigabit support, and it only costs $4,000. Buy that or lease it from us. We'll help you. That could be in their ISP startup kit. Google could lend its expertise in a lot of indirect ways.
That's what we need. Google, we need an ISP startup kit. And we'll be doing the first ones. We'll videotape and do the first ones, you know, right in Kentucky or whatever.
Yes.
Why not?
I'll find a random town in the middle of nowhere and start it up myself. It's like, let's go pick some spot, throw a dart at the board, and like, there, that's where we're going to do it.
Meanwhile, somebody's forwarding this little segment of the video to, you know, cable executives, and they're like, what? Dispatch the assassins! Dispatch the assassins!
Let me give you guys a clue. You know, when you guys show up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, I'm usually not asleep, and you guys go into the bedroom, all the lights are off. That's a dummy. I'm waiting for you on the roof. I'm watching for you guys. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Pen. We will have pens. Pens are mightier than the sword.
We could talk about that long enough that it could be its own video, because there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, we probably should make a video on that, because some people don't care about American ISP situation. The American ISP situation could have ripples that extend into the rest of the world. So you guys should care about these things if you care about the internet as a whole. But we do talk about it a lot, and this is the last article that we're going to talk about. It's kind of interesting. Interesting. It's kind of silly, but we want to thank you guys. Time Warner Cable. They actually asked their customers, hey, if we lower your cable bill by about $5. Would you guys be cool with a 30 gigabyte or 30 gigabyte data bandwidth cap? And they said hell no. In fact, only about 1% of them said it was okay. And despite all that, their CEO Rob Marcus said, well, you know, even though people don't want it, we're probably still going to try to move in that direction.
So let me get this straight. Time Warner customers, technically, I guess a lot of Time Warner doesn't really have a bandwidth cap, although they sort of throttle you once you get past about 350 gigabytes in some markets.
Right.
So 350 gigabytes versus 30 gigabytes, and you save how much a year? $60 a year?
$60 a year. It's like $5 a month or something crazy like that. Yeah.
Okay. So what you're telling me is 300 gigabytes of traffic is worth about $5. I'm pretty sure that Comcast doesn't charge you $5 per 300 gigabytes of overage. So what does that tell you?
Oh man, somebody's laughing all the way to the bank, or wants to be laughing all the way to the bank. But thank you guys for you know, saying the right thing. And well, yeah, of course you guys, but we got to keep telling our friends, telling our family that this stuff is insanity.
It is encouraging. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to interject with just let's put a real world example of how much 30 gigs of bandwidth actually is.
Oh yes.
And you were dealing with, what did we say earlier? It was like, I think it was, if you're on a Google Hangout for an hour, you are roughly transmitting a gig of data. So 1 hour of 1080p streamed video is roughly a gig.
Probably. Well, when you look at Netflix, I think an hour of video is even more than a gig. It's like 1.2. Yeah, it's 2.8.
Yeah, well, and that's even a better example, because that's I'm thinking Google, because Google downplays the bit rate so you can get a real-time stream, where with Netflix you're getting a higher quality video, you're getting higher bandwidth and a higher bit rate video, so you can get that best possible picture when you're watching your show. But then 2.8 gigs for an hour of video, that's 10 movies, and you're hitting your cap.
Yes.
Figuring that's 28 gigs for a month, and then you've got, say, that's 2 gigs on top of that you have to play around and do whatever. If you're watching this video alone, if you're watching this video, just to add to that, you'll hit your 30 gig cap in a span of 15 days, especially if you watch 1 movie a day.
Not only that, I mean, think about how much the average American watches in television. Like, it's not even a healthy number. It's some crazy number.
It's like 200 hours a month, maybe, or maybe I'm wrong on that. I think it may be more than that.
As we transition to a purely IP, purely digital, non-broadcast situation, that number is going to go away from normal television into internet things. But even not even considering that, I mean, even if you just 30 gigabytes or whatever, if you've got the 35 megabit plan, that connection is going full tilt at 35 megabit, you will pass 30 gigabytes in a little over 2 hours. That's nuts.
Take a look at our sponsor, Squarespace. And I want to say thanks to Squarespace, because I've been getting a lot of email feedback from you guys, and I've received no negative feedback thus far. So that's really cool. And everything looks good, so we're going to continue to work with Squarespace. I like what they do. They give you guys all the tools you need to build your website, and it's all about putting the content first. So let's go ahead and just take a quick tour here of some of the new features. Now, they've added shops, so that now is e-commerce. You can go on here and create your own shop. You just come in and it's really easy. You pick your template and then just fill it with your content, and you don't have to really worry about getting too into it unless you really want to. If you want to get into it, you can. Stuff for photographers, bloggers, artists, pretty much everything you need, restaurants. I want to show you this one, musicians, because with musicians, it'll integrate right into Bandcamp. So you can either sell your stuff right on here, or you can just have your Bandcamp playlist, similar to this. Let me go ahead and click on music. Have your Bandcamp playlist embedded right here. And whenever you're ready to buy, click buy, and it takes you over to Bandcamp. Again, you guys have a ton of templates to start with, and I want to mention that these are just starting points. You can take them, fill them in with content, leave them as is, or you can get really nerdy with it. There's lots of editors. They've added this logo editor where you can go in and create your own logos. That stands for big time stuff. And here's what I really wanted to mention, Developer Center. A lot of you guys are going to love this. You guys have full control over the back end. Get access, everything you need to come in and really take control of those templates. All the features here listed, you guys can see them. And there's even a mobile app. So they're really doing a lot of different things. Last but not least, workshops. Just giving you guys some pointers, some help with your website. If you guys want to learn, you can come here and do that. If you guys want to save a little bit of money when you guys sign up for Squarespace, just click on the screen and be sure to enter the code TechSyndicate2. That's for the month of February. We'll be using TechSyndicate2, and after February, it'll likely be TechSyndicate3. You know, Squarespace knows that we have a lot of developers and a lot of talented designers in our audience, so they told us to pass this along. They're hiring. And they're hiring in New York City. They're down in Soho. What they're going to do is, they'll take a look at your resume and some of your, samples. And if they like it, they'll fly you up there so you can experience New York City. Now they're down in Soho, so I would recommend looking out for Kane. He could be anywhere in that part of town. Also, you're right there in Chinatown. A lot of fun. You guys can go buy an awesome jacket like the ones I have. I happen to buy mine down there. Anyway, if you're looking for a really awesome job in a cool part of town, be sure to check out beapartofit.squarespace.com. And you guys might be on your way to New York for a really awesome job interview, and that's going to be going on until the middle of March, so best of luck. And now back to the tech. So they sell you a plan, and if you use the plan for 2 hours out of an entire month, you're done.
Yep.
Wow, we're in the wrong business.
I'm trying to just understand what is the incentive to keep people off the internet?
To keep them on television.
Yeah, because they control television. Of course.
You don't have a la carte channels with television. You do with the internet.
See? Aha! Now it all makes sense. All right, let's talk about Mount Gox. So, Mount Gox was hacked, right? Everybody knows that Mount
Gox was goxed.
It got goxed. Everybody, and all the bitcoins were gone. Like hundreds of thousands of bitcoins were gone. Well, recently there was a hacker who got in and compromised the Reddit account and compromised his blog and a few other things. And he was like, "Hey, look, there's like several 100,000 bitcoins still in the Mount Gox account. Does that mean that the Mount Gox guy took all the bitcoins and ran? Who knows?" Well, there's some new developments here. There's all kinds of developments happening with Mount Gox, but they filed for bankruptcy. Mount Gox filed for bankruptcy, and while filing for bankruptcy, it's looking like they knew about the breach, if it was a breach, a long time before it happened. And despite all that, they continued to take transaction fees for people. They blocked it so that no one could withdraw, but they allowed people to spend money. They allowed them to make transfers, and they kept those transfer fees. Were they just making money out of the air? Is that what was happening at that point in time? Do you think that they were up to something no good, or do you think they really are so stupid that they were compromised and really just kept on functioning, not knowing that they were compromised? Do you think they're innocent is what I'm asking here? What do you guys think?
I don't think they're innocent, but at the same time, the Gox stuff in general is kind of a situation where I think they're not really being super transparent about what's going on. And literally the only thing that I have to go off of that is concrete and known is in the paperwork they filed in Japan. They listed that they had assets in like $2 billion. They were like, well, look, we've got $6 billion of liabilities and like $2.8 billion of assets. And so it's like, all right, $2.8 billion of assets. What is that exactly? Is that cash? Is that Bitcoin? Is that office furniture? What is that? Because there have been other reports that say they don't have, they did have $200 million in U.S. cash, and now they don't have any cash. And I can't really find anything that is really substantiated. There's a lot of people that are going nuts analyzing the Bitcoin blockchain because, as we've said many times, it's not really exactly anonymous. And so somebody has found a wallet that's linked to Mt. Gox that has 200,000 Bitcoins in it.
I thought it was more than that.
It might have been more than that. And I think there might be a second wallet that has, another.
I thought it was closer to 900,000, but I don't have the article in front of me, but I'm not totally sure.
I think it was 200,000 Bitcoins in one wallet, and then like another 100,000 Bitcoins in a combination of wallets linked to Mt. Gox. And so, again, we don't know the full story there because Mt. Gox is being super tight-lipped. So what's the story with those?
I don't even know. I mean, their CEO is probably going to vanish. I mean, he already vanished for a little while, but of course, they filed for bankruptcy now. I expect him to vanish and never return with somebody's money. He'll be gone, living in a nice island. Maybe he'll get hit by a hurricane and get what's his.
No, I think this. There's enough Bitcoin here that he will be sleeping with the fishes probably.
Oh, it's you're probably right. He probably pissed off the wrong people. Whenever you take this much money, you're probably going to get screwed. All right, speaking of getting screwed, if you want to buy a Tesla and you live in New Jersey, you can go screw yourself. Because Tesla, they've got this business model where they only sell from their own stores, and they do this because they believe that Tesla is such a new type of car that they want to have their own people selling it. And this has got a lot of people up in arms, because traditionally you go to Carl's Ford dealership or Billy Bob's Volkswagen or whatever, and you get your car there. You have to go through a middleman. And so New Jersey is saying, listen, this is not fair. If people are going to buy Teslas, they're going to have to go through a middleman. So I want to be clear here. Tesla can still sell their cars in New Jersey, but they just refuse to go through this middleman because they do not believe that the middleman can properly educate, or perhaps they do not trust the middleman to properly, convey the full experience and also the knowledge that's needed when you buy into a new technology like this.
An argument can be made that an ordinary car dealership lacks the expertise on the particular kind of product because it is so radically different from an ordinary automobile that an ordinary dealership should probably not be granted a license to resell Tesla cars because they are very odd and very different.
Why don't we take this conversation a step further and just for a moment talk about, it's been historically, we've always had to go to a dealership. Do we really need a middleman at this point? Why can't we save a little bit of money and buy directly from BMW, Ford, or whoever? Why can't we actually go to, a Toyota store that's not Billy Bob's Toyota, it's just Toyota? Is that a bad thing for me to want? Is it still going to be employing people? I want to save a little bit of money on my car. I mean, you guys think that's bad?
It's exactly where I was going to take this. I mean, this is the dealership functionality is a distribution model. This is how you got your car before, because you had the Toyota or BMW or any of these big companies they had to have their manufacturing plant, they have to have their base headquarters. They didn't have to invest the money in putting up a dealership or an office in a location so that you could then go in and buy the car. So you distribute the car out there. But this is the day. This is the 21st century. This is the day of the internet. This thing is technically a car by classic functionality, that it's got four wheels and it takes.
It's got wheels.
But it's not. It is a totally new piece of technology. It is not just any other electric car. It is something else entirely. And the idea that this is, we have to attach ourselves and stay connected to this old distribution style. And how many people do they think are going to be buying these things to the point where the dealerships and they're like, oh man, we can't have these people selling cars straight across, because it's also, what is one of the other things about a dealership that you have is you've got you've got your mechanic shop that's attached to the side of it. So you've got oil changes. What else do you need? You need oil changes. You need your maintenance on your engine, maintenance on your wheels, tires, rotation. All that stuff is done in the dealership to maintain a warranty and whatnot. All these things need to be done. Well, this car doesn't have 80% of those maintenance windows that you have to do. So again, it's why would you go and buy it? Why would you go and pay a dealer markup? Because they've got to spend X amount of money extra. So instead of paying, was it $67,000 or $69,000 for this car, you're gonna end up spending $75,000 to $80,000.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tack on
$90,000.
at least $10,000 or $20,000 on top of that, just so the dealer can pay the electricity and pay the AC and pay his employees. I mean, Wendell, do you agree? What do you think?
No, yeah, I agree completely. It's on the surface, it's through some sort of misguided consumer protection. But at the same time, if you're buying a Tesla, it's sort of a unique situation, and so I don't think that it should be sort of legislated away from, the possible thing. I mean, there's so much opportunity here to make a joke about, the free market, and the Republican governor, Chris Christie, I guess is who I think is who the governor is.
Yeah, that's him.
And it's like, he's like, that's free market, except when it's not a free market, and we're gonna regulate this and control that and do this, that, and the other. It's really the argument about customer service and local serviceability and things like that just doesn't ring true, because it's just not a situation where something that is new and unique and innovative in the market has any opportunity to take root, because it's a sort of chicken and egg problem. And there doesn't exist, I mean, someday this might not be a problem for Tesla, but it's a problem now because it's not a commodity item yet. It's a luxury item. And so I'm not sure if I'm saying that luxury items need a pass on these kind of regulations. What the regulations are meant to do are not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that the regulations have been perverted and corrupted by the establishment, and that's something the public should be interested in.
All right, we want to know what you guys think about this. Let us know in the comments. Do you think that dealers are even necessary these days? I mean like middlemen dealers. So let us know what you think, and let us know what you think of the Tesla cars in New Jersey. Maybe you're somebody who's in line to get a Tesla, and now you can't get one and you're angry. You have to drive to like California to pick one up. All right, moving on. Let's we've talked about this before. We've talked about how metadata works, and we had an interesting segment where we basically showed how you could piece together a lot of really personal information just with little bits of metadata from here and there. So a Stanford student named John Mayer, what an unfortunate name there, man. I'm very sorry. I hope people don't joke around about, with you about like that terrible singer guy. Anyway, so John Mayer has decided to do a study, and he got a bunch of people, like a whole lot of people here. How many people was it? It was 546 volunteers, and he harvested their metadata and watched what they did. And the takeaway here is that he was able to look at the stuff that they were doing. Like for instance, one person they called a doctor. And then after they called that doctor, they called, like a neurologist. And then they called a special pharmacist. And then they called someone else who specializes in a certain type of, I don't know. I'm just making this up. It's on the page, but I don't feel like looking over there. But you know what I mean? And then he was able to say like, oh, well, this person has a certain disease. They were able to pick up that information just based upon a few phone calls that they made. So, what if you're calling Home Depot and you're looking for batteries, and then you call another place and you're looking for another device, and it has, you're looking for, let's say you're calling a place and you're looking for a part for your snowmobile and a part for your pool and a part for your truck. But all these three things that you just called to get can be used to create a weapon or something terrible. Can you imagine what that would infer about what you could possibly do by calling those three places? See, that's what happens with metadata. It's a confusing picture, but it's easy to paint these things and also justify getting a warrant by like, hey, look, they're calling these three things. We need to get a warrant about them. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's something that you guys need to be aware of and need to keep spreading to the rest of the public who does not watch this channel.
Well, it's
basically what it is.
The rights, the right of the citizenry, the right of privacy. Rights are just like muscles. If they're not exercised, they're lost. And once they're lost, you can't get them back easily. And having all of this stuff in the database, just because it's not illegal now, and just because it's not being used against you now, doesn't mean that it won't be eventually used against you in some later date. I mean, we've all joined, an internet forum and picked an unfortunate username. It's like, oh, this is the coolest username ever, and then looked back and it's like, oh, did I really have to put, X's and stars and all this kind of thing around my username? That's like the dumbest username ever, but it goes back, 12 years. These kind of things can be taken and twisted and used out of context against you. If it's just a treasure trove of political enemies or of, workplace enemies or anything like that you might have. And when you speak out against things as a citizen, it's like, oh, I want to speak against this. Then this database can be trawled to sort of intimidate you into silence. These are sort of the tools of fascism, and it's really easy to, we're not quite there yet, but it's really easy to start out down this path when you've got these kind of things. And I think the audience knows that, that metadata is not, that it knows that it's a lie that is repeated a lot by officials in power, that, oh, metadata is not important, you have no right of privacy on the metadata, blah, blah, blah. But, here's yet another example. This is not the first example we've had on the show. It's probably like number 78 or 79.
79. Yeah.
But I know that you guys are aware of this, but you have to let other people know because they don't know. It's like, oh, well, they're just collecting meta information. Like my phone knows if I robbed a bank and it will tell on me. And it's like, no, it's not quite that simple. It's a lot more insidious than that. And it's really being misrepresented. And you have to understand it so that you can explain it to other people.
Yeah, there's always that one guy in the comments that's like, man, I'm not doing anything wrong. I've got nothing to hide. Nobody cares about me sharing my Titanfall record with my friends on the internet or whatever. And what you think is right and innocent and, and what you think is wrong may not be what they think is right and innocent or wrong. So just remember that.
You don't even need metadata to dig up some. You were talking like, you look at people who made phone calls or even just text. You don't even have to have the contents of the text message, but the fact that a person sent a text to this, and this. You can cross-reference. If you have the entire database, you can build an entire array of where a person goes just with a phone number list, what they do, where they go. You start getting into the point where you get GPS coordinates updated. Oh, suddenly you've got an entire map of this person's life. And it's not so much that, I'm looking at this as what exactly is in this metadata. There's a lot that you can glean from this just by looking at a single person's their phone call list, like you said, or text message list, or if you get the updates that the GPS does across the board of where they go, where they check in. You can tell a lot about a person by the pictures that they post on a Facebook page. Just the pictures.
You can tell way too much about them based upon that information.
So if you start digging around with where they're physically going with their phone and some of the other pieces and tidbits of information that the phones are actually, it's not so much that they're collecting, but just that they report because it's useful. So you go and you post something to Facebook and it tags your GPS location because you told it to. That data is in there. So this picture that you just posted to Facebook suddenly has has the GPS coordinates, the time of day, the time zone, which cell tower you're connected. All this stuff is there. There's so much you can glean from it. There's so much sensitive data, and it needs to be very carefully handled by not being accessed by anybody, to be honest with you.
Well, we're going to get a little bit more into how it's handled in just a minute. Do you have something to say, Wendell?
Yeah, look at the protesters. I think the protesters in the Ukraine, there were people in their apartments that were just near people protesting that got text messages that were like, "We know you were protesting. We will hunt you down after this is over," was sort of the context of the text message. And that kind of thing can happen here. We are dangerously close to that happening here. We already have free speech zones, for Pete's sake. How crazy is that we have free speech zones that are, 12 miles from the middle of nowhere?
That's shocking.
I want to take this in just a different direction for half a second. It's like we're talking about government using this or agencies like security agencies using this, but if I had that information, I could track somebody down and stalk them. Not me personally, but you could if you had this access to this information or you just got a hold of it, you could stalk somebody, you could track them down, you could follow them. It's so much that goes on.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the hell it's for. But yeah, so I'm gonna move on here. We got. I want to thank John Mayer before I move on for putting together this study. But we need more of this kind of stuff, and we don't need to shut up about it. And I know he's getting old, so that's why we're going to move on. But this is kind of speaking of massive amounts of data. The NSA has been hijacking botnets. So not only are they trying to collect as much data as they can, but they're also trying to infiltrate as many sources as possible. And they had a whole hacking initiative that they were working on for a long time. But I don't know how clever the hackers are at the NSA. They must be decently clever. However, something that black hat hackers have been doing for a long time is they've been creating botnets. And the reason they needed a botnet was because generally they could, if they got access to a whole bunch of computers, they wouldn't really have any way to control them. But with a botnet, they can very easily connect to them through basically like IRC, and then they can send out commands and giant numbers of computers will listen to them. So the NSA decided, well, hey, we should hijack some of these botnets and then we can get our software on there. And what they're really trying to do with this software is they're trying to look for patterns because that's really what they can do. It's pattern recognition at this point when you have this many computers that you've infiltrated. And then you find computers that look interesting to you. Maybe someone's doing something you don't like. Or maybe you decide you want to target some certain person who does certain key things. So you look for a pattern that might be that person, and then you find them. You can turn on their webcam, turn on their microphone, whatever you want to do. It's all, you're already in their machine. You live there. You're inside. You're embedded.
It's also really easy for them. Like if you have, one of the Russian business network botnets and you co-opt control of that, like you don't necessarily take over, but you're there and you have a presence on those machines. then you can do something to another target, and it looks like as if it's coming from a criminal organization or some sort of non-government.
Like you're using them as a proxy.
Yes, exactly. And so it's like it's really just like, look at all these cool tools we have for not only taking over existing botnets, which is the first article, but the second article is we can write tools to sort of add other machines to existing botnets and existing command and control structures in such a way it's definitely not connected to any sort of government entity, but then we can use it for all these nefarious purposes.
That is genius. That is like sinister genius. My God, that's ridiculous.
Why do all the work we ourselves when all we really got to do is just hijack the people who've already done the work for us?
Yes.
You go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing.
I feel like there's a lot of people there that have really good intentions and actually are professionals and actually do care about the security and don't want to harass the citizenry. I think there are good people there.
Well, most of them have left after the whole Snowden thing because they were like, they looked in the mirror and were like, this is terrible. And so the people that have replaced them are people that toe the line. I mean, there are a few good people left, I'm sure, but the people that are left that are watching this, that are in there, probably know a lot of their friends have left and are very sad.
You know something? I bet a lot of the people, even the ones that toe the line, I bet a lot of them are kind of uncomfortable with what's going on. And I'm going to paint a very light picture because I don't want to get myself in trouble. But what if they're there and there's enormous pressure on them from the powers that be, and they are in a position where saying no is not really, well, it's an option to anybody. You've all got a choice. So, I mean, if you really want to be a decent human being, you could quit or do something about it. But what if they're spineless, right? So we got these spineless guys, and they're scared to death because they know they have to collect everything. And if something goes wrong, it's their ass on the line. And that's why they are developing systems like this that will collect everything, because they're scared to death that their ass is going to be on the line if something does go down. So they want to make sure that they know everything that's going down everywhere in the world, and that it's getting abused all over the place just because it's there. Maybe that's why it's there, and then it's getting abused. Does that make sense?
What you're describing is a loss of objectivity, and a loss of objectivity is a direct psychological result of a lot of different sort of psychological systems of abuse that might exist in the workplace and stuff like that. I mean, these are not these are not necessarily crimes against humanity or anything like that, but at the same time, these type of systems will be abused someday if there are already documented cases.
Someday
of abuse,
they're already.
But the abuses, someday somebody will look back and be like, wow, we really abused the system. This is crazy. But you're onto something, and that is that it does stem from a need to sort of be able to know, or it's like, okay, this terrible thing happened. Let's completely take it apart, press rewind and see what happened. But the reason I say there's a loss of objectivity, because in that situation, isn't the medicine worse than the cure? I mean, all of these programs are designed for after-the-fact analysis. There's nothing that can be done here with this kind of approach that is preemptive. So, I mean, there's no use crying over spilt milk, as they say. This is a terribly invasive system that is a medicine that is peddled as a cure, but the cure is
poison,
worse than the disease.
I all those things, but it really is. It's not Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker, and maybe finding that middle ground and saying, hey, listen, we realize this is a gray area, and we realize you guys want to do the right thing. So maybe if we fight it from that angle, we'll have more success. I don't know, and I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. It's good to see that it's not just this. It's deeper than what we see. I don't know.
I have another.
Maybe I have too much beer.
Maybe, I don't know. I have a thought that I wanna just throw out here and kind of exercise for half a moment. What if the people who are currently doing this, there's a couple of them that are like, we got to do this, but they firmly believe that they're doing the right thing by collecting all of this data. They're looking to save people. We did this. We wanted to help. I mean, I'm going to bring up Firefly here. They created this chemical they added to air purifiers, and the whole purpose was to make people be calm and be okay and not angry, so they wouldn't fight. And what happened?
Basically Firefly's version of chemtrails.
Yeah, exactly. And what happened in that was that you had most of the people just stopped it worked too well, so everybody just stopped working and died, and then everybody else went crazy aggressor. Anyway, so I'm getting off a little tangent here, but my point is that the purpose behind doing that was the good intention was good. They did this. They were trying to do the right thing. They were trying to make the world a better place. Yeah, but the unintended consequence was that it backfired on them. But in this context, let's say these people are doing the thing that they think is right. Say 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, this stuff is all set in place. No one's doing anything bad about it. Nothing goes on at all. Something happens somewhere in the timeline that, like another 9/11 type catastrophic big bad thing going on.
God forbid, yeah.
Or like the Boston bombing. I mean, something big like this happens again, and they're like, oh well, we can figure out how it happened. I'm like, well, that's great, but like Wendell said, it's after the fact. It doesn't really prevent things. Maybe it might. Maybe it does. But then it's after the fact we can figure out what's going on. And then when that happens, everyone's going to be so freaked out and so, oh God, we can't let this happen again. That's when you take that next step, and I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat now and go, this is where it turns into a 1984, where we realize that we're already living there. But then they start to, they tighten the noose, so to speak. We've all stuck our heads in the rope, and now it's just, oh, we're just going to cinch this down. And it's not the people who are in power now, it's the people who are going to be in power 15 years from now, and they're going to think that they're doing the right thing, and it's just easier for them to cinch that down, and suddenly we're all in a very, very bad spot.
This person doesn't find SpongeBob SquarePants entertaining. We need to put a monitor on him and send him for psychological evaluation.
Or I mean, let's go away from 1984. Let's go to like was it THX 1138? George Lucas's first movie, where everybody was pumped full of pills to eliminate emotion. Or there was another movie that I happened to see the other day that I actually found it on Netflix of all places. It was Equilibrium.
Equilibrium, yeah.
And that movie was everybody
Bale,
was taking the emotion killer pill. Everybody was just without emotion.
That movie is basically 1984 meets some Matrix meets the one you just mentioned before that.
THX 1138.
Yes. It was all those movies put together.
That's exactly how I described it.
Yeah.
But that that didn't just happen overnight, and it may have been maybe there was a Palpatine style plan that was like, well, right now I'm just a senator for this Nabooian planet, but I really want to take over the Senate, and then I want to turn it into a galactic empire. He made this really intricate plan. Well,
you could put your hood back on just for this.
Okay.
There you go. Go ahead. Yes.
So maybe he had an intricate plan that ran through the entirety of he had a beginning, a middle, and an end. He had an end goal in mind. What if these people don't actually have the end goal in mind? What if they're just here doing what they think is the right thing, and then down the road, then Palpatine steps up into power, and he's like, oh, wait a minute, you know what? Look at this. This is totally... We could come in here and take over the entire world like this. We just got to move this guy out of the way. We're going to move over to here, and suddenly, excellent. I am now in power.
And if
You're
you guys,
stealing my idea, man.
If you guys don't think that'll happen, let's re-examine how the Putin came to power after the whole. I mean, he was the head of the KGB basically, and wasn't George Bush Sr. the leader of the CIA? So it's like the intelligence communities are in charge already, apparently.
Wendell, have you seen the time?
Uh-oh, is it Rant 30?
It's Rant 30! Now, you guys were just talking about the powers that be abusing the power, and I think that the powers that be don't understand things enough to actually know what the hell is going on. And we have a very good example of that in Senator Feinstein. Yes, I said that right. Okay, good. So, Senator Feinstein. She's the Senate chair of the Committee for Intelligence thing. What is it? I've told you the Oversight Committee for Intelligence, or what the fuck is it? It's in here somewhere. I've said this a million times. So anyway, listen. Here's what's happening. And maybe Wendell, you should break this down for the purpose of being succinct. But essentially, the CIA and the Senate are fighting right now over a few things. The CIA has. Go ahead, Wendell. You can do it.
It's okay. This is really complicated. It's hard to know. So, basically, to make a long story short, at the cost of sacrificing some details and glossing over some important nuance to this.
Well, we've only got a couple hours.
The Senate got wind of some things the CIA was doing with regard to extraordinary rendition and torture, like stuff that's apparently really horrifying, but we don't really know the full details of. And so they decided to investigate. Well, the CIA gave them some access to CIA computers. The Senate committee that was doing this used that access, and maybe more access than they were meant to be given. Don't know if that's an oversight of the CIA, or if the CIA was like, look, it's in these directories, don't look in any other directories. We don't know. We don't know what it was. But after that, the Senate had more information than they were really supposed to, I guess. And so part of it was whistleblower in the beginning, maybe. This kind of conjecture. And part of it was maybe they exceeded the access that they were given by the CIA. So then the CIA started investigating the Senate because they wanted to know who the leak came from and what did they get and where were the files and all this kind of thing. So part of it was looking through their own logs on the CIA system, and part of it may have been more. We don't know. And then Feinstein is like, what? You know, you guys are spying on us? No.
Yeah.
This is... You know,
let me jump in here with this part, because I've been waiting for this. The Rant 30 is not what happened. The Rant 30 is what Feinstein is doing about it. So Feinstein comes out and she's like, this is a constitutional violation. You're violating our rights, and it's violating the Fourth Amendment. So she's freaking out. Now, Senator Feinstein, where the hell were you as chair of the intelligence series thing, whatever committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee? Where the hell were you when it was happening to us? Because in January, the middle of January, let's go to this article over here. So people asked you, hey, all these things are in place, and they're clearly violating the Constitution, and they're clearly violating the Fourth Amendment, but you guys are saying it's not. Well, what's going to happen if someone decides to abuse this power? And her response is basically, these people are very strictly vetted, and they are professional people. That's her response. So she's totally been justifying everything they're doing until it fucking happens to her. And then she blows a gasket and freaks out. She's like, what do you mean you guys are doing this stuff to me? That's a violation of the Constitution, Fourth Amendment. Oh my God, let me just throw all this stuff because now it's happening to me. How dare you, CIA? How dare you, intelligence community? Oh God, guys.
I'd just like to point out that there is actually a law that says Congress is not supposed to get any special treatment, above and beyond the citizenry. So, even though it's not technically it would be the most delicious if the NSA had been caught spying on her. But since it's the CIA, I'll take what I can get. But the irony is still yummy and delicious like cake.
So,
well, go ahead, Kane.
What's really going on here?
You still got the hood on.
We were trying to do the right thing, and it kind of backfired on us. So now we're like, holy crap, this is totally the wrong thing. Why are you? But I'm a senator. Yeah, that's great. And you guys are a bunch of corrupt jackasses anyway. So, I would love to see those logs, to be perfectly honest with you. I would like to see their metadata.
You know what's
metadata, right?
You know what's beautiful in all this? These people are so sociopathic. I'm talking about some of the senators that you guys out there elect. So be very careful when you're, casting your votes and that sort of thing. A lot of these people are so sociopathic that they don't see this as being weird in the least. You know what I mean? They don't see this they see this as a clear violation of their rights, but all the rest of it is totally normal and just a regular day at the office. They're spying on American people because that's what they got to do. So,
or they're letting foreign governments, more appropriately. Just a couple of weeks ago, we learned that it's basically you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And so it's even more disturbing in that it's a situation where we're letting foreign governments poke around our networks and spy on our citizenry because technically we can't, so that our intelligence agencies can get that data and analyze it for whatever reason. So we're just going to let foreign intelligence committees, run amok and spy on our citizenry? I mean, really? Is that because that's exactly what they've argued? And
well, thankfully we've got the Fisa courts, and they've been set in place to tell the intelligence community yes and no. That's pretty much all that they were set up for. And that's kind of a good idea. We need some court, and there does need to be some secrecy, because when you're going after someone, you don't want to show your entire hand to the rest of the world to say you're going after, I don't know, someone who's trying to carry out a plot against the country or whatever, or you're trying to help Britain with someone who's trying to carry out a plot. Well, you don't want to tip your hand and show everything, so you need a court that says yes, here's a warrant, and no. So there's the FISA courts, and Snowden, Snowden came out, and he's leaked a lot of things lately, but he actually came out and said a few things. But this is interesting. The documents reveal how the FISA courts started reinterpreting the law, and that's where things got weird. They weren't just interpreting the law. They were changing things, turning things that were black and white into gray areas, and pretty much just taking the Constitution and chewing it up. That's pretty much what happened right there. But this is an interesting read. I'm not going to get too far into it, but the FISA courts, I think they were set up with a noble purpose. Again, I'm trying to be really objective in this episode. Man, I don't know what I'm on today. But yeah, these documents, and you guys can scroll down here, there are a ton of documents. And I looked through some of them, but there's way too much for me to look through. You guys may want to look through and see if there's anything really interesting in here. But it kind of shows how they started sliding into an area where they were kind of recreating and reinterpreting the law instead of just, saying yes and no based upon what the law already was.
I'll tell you what was going on. We were trying to do the right thing. I can't even keep a straight face anymore.
I'm moving on.
I mean, really, that's what it all boils down to. We're trying to do the right thing at the right time. And then you look back, you're like, oh, wow, we really screwed the pooch on that one, didn't we?
Remind me again how inserting maple syrup into the disk drive was going to help us? Or that sheep's bladders may be employed to prevent earthquakes?
Telling you,
what is that from? That's hilarious.
That's Monty Python and the
That's
Holy
Monty
Grail.
Python. Yes. Okay. More than 162,000 WordPress sites have been used to distribute DDoS attacks. And I'm going to say this quickly. If you have a WordPress website, which I know a lot of you out there do, make sure that you are not using the ping back functionality. It's junk in the first place, but it is what they are using to take advantage of your website so that it can be used to spam DDoS attack type things. It's a point of vulnerability. Turn off your pingbacks. There are some really, really good really good plugins that will help you out with your security. I'll give you a couple more tips while I'm here. Make sure that you do not have an account with the name of admin. Make sure you do not have a user 0 or 1. Those are the most common. That will save you from most of the headaches. Just make sure there's no admin and make sure your password is very difficult.
You can disable pingback. That's just an option. Just disable that. I mean, that's what you really have to do.
And also, and the password thing, make sure that it's long, and it doesn't have to be ridiculously complex. It could be just a series of phrases. Throw a couple of numbers in there if you really feel like it, but...
Correct horse battery staple.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. This is fun. This could be another Rant 30, but this is very interesting. So Guido Stepkin, who is this guy? He's someone from Intel, right? So he's at CeBIT right now. That's in Germany. They're talking about the future of processor technology, and Intel has some new SoC, that's system on chip, integrated processors. And what's different about these processors is they have some microcode running right there on the processor level. And this will allow manufacturers to lock that CPU to a certain OS. For instance, if you have, let's say that's, I don't know, Samsung, for instance, and this is totally hypothetical, so don't sue me, Samsung. But let's say that Samsung is using one of these Intel CPUs. What Samsung will be able to do is they would be able to create their own crappy version of Android, or they'd be able to use Tizen or whatever, and they would be able to lock that device on a CPU level to that version of the OS. That means you can't install a new ROM, you can't use the phone with a different version, you can't install Linux or something else on it. It's not possible on a very low level of the hardware. Now they're also going to be implementing the McAfee antivirus scanner, but the implications of this are a lot bigger, and we've been talking about this back in the days when we were, I guess way back when, episode 30 or something, I don't know. We were talking about the implications with some of this technology with UEFI type, motherboards that are compatible with that. They could potentially lock the bootloader so that you could only load
secure boot and TPM and all that.
Yeah, all that. Well, TPM's been around for a long time, but
they keep making TPM better with every iteration, and by better I mean more. Go away with your free software.
Okay, you know what? This is another one of those moments where I'm hold on. This was created because we were trying to do the right thing. No, okay. So, but no, I can see the positives behind this. I'm always looking at why, like, I want to put my own software on here. I always want to put my own Linux, or I want to do this, or I want to load Knoppix or something. But I mean, I can see this as a security feature for like hospital computers, to where you've got the computers that are now sitting inside of a hospital are. It's a Dell. I mean, I've walked into hospital rooms where I'm like, I could totally just hack into the entire network of this hospital by dropping, backtracer or, what is it? It's CLE, whatever the new version of the.
Yeah, then press 2 buttons to disable all defibrillators on floor 7.
Well,
Done.
no, it's just, but you can, no, it's not even that. It's like
God.
I could get myself checked into the hospital, I could sit in a room, I could reboot this machine with something else. It's got the same MAC address, it's got the same everything else, and I could just start picking up and gleaning what's going on in the network and start accessing, systems. If I really, that's a very real threat, especially when you're talking about privacy concerns. So I could see locking a computer like that to a specific operating system, specific whatever they've got, or an embedded machine that's got that's got proprietary kind of software. You don't want it to be able to be hacked or cracked. But then you get things like phones. This could be used to lock down a phone, and then you can't. Like I said, you couldn't install CyanogenMod on it. You couldn't install something else. You could put this on an OEM computer, and suddenly you can't use anything except what you get from the manufacturer on that OEM computer. You couldn't update to the new version of Windows, or you couldn't put a version of Linux on there or whatnot. There's so many bad implementations, but I think the original idea was we were trying to do the right thing.
Well, that could be all well and good, and the thing is, here, they didn't once mention what you just mentioned, and they didn't say anything about hospitals or schools or security or anything like that. I mean, other than the fact they talked about, integrating McAfee antivirus on a very low level.
Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. Now they're going to use this. They're like, hey, wait a minute, that's a really great idea.
We'll just spin it that way. Let's just keep spinning it that way. But the problem is what they were talking about here is, using it for. They even mentioned CyanogenMod and the Android, different versions of Android like that. They mention it right here in the article as that being something that they would be able to stop, and keep you away from. That's why it scares the hell out of me.
No, I mean that's why it scares me. I'm just saying, but it's like why do we have to have such fine controls over this? I mean, they're putting the antivirus in the CPU, sure, because they want to stop boot sector or BIOS viruses from affecting. That makes sense to me. I may understand that. But it just means that we're going to get more and more creative to find ways around this. That's what it's going to boil down to.
I'm getting a message here from Agent Beard. Hold on a second.
Well, hey there, Logan. This is hot off the wire, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but turns out Intel may very well come out with a desktop processor called the 1984K.
All right, so you guys heard it there. Agent Beard, he's always getting the scoops before anybody else because he's Agent Beard. So a desktop processor, this is getting serious now. What do you guys think about a desktop processor that could potentially be locked to one OS? Now, what are the implications?
They've already tried to do that, and this is just the next version of that with TPM or Secure Boot or whatever, because the argument can be made that with Secure Boot, you're pretty much already there on some OEM platforms, because some OEM platforms don't have the key, the NUEFI, to allow you to run an operating system like Linux. They were supposed to, but through an oversight or omission or malice, it's not there. And so you have to do some really crazy things to break into it. But the other thing that they say that this is for is security. But the bottom line is that while this is a layer of security, this does not protect you against architectural problems or regular software bugs that are likely to be exploited. So like if you have malware in Chrome or something like that on an Android phone, you can still get infected by that. This does not stop that. This just prevents you from running a different operating system. Now, if you had a really severe thing, could this prevent a rogue operating system from being installed on your phone without your knowledge? Maybe, but it's not really clear that there's a clear and present security trade-off that you really do get for that.
Unless, I just had this epiphany. What if it was to prevent, I don't know, things like the NSA from installing a replica of your operating system on your phone with added NSA, backdoor software that would send back to, I don't know. Maybe it would prevent that kind of thing from happening, or maybe it would lock that kind of thing in place, so then you couldn't get rid of the backdoor.
Let's talk about it from that angle, because Intel is a business, and we have to, when we talk about businesses, we have to talk about incentives, and we can't look at it through human eyes, because a business's incentive is to make money, and what's going to be the most beneficial for them as far as making money? Working with the CIA or working against the CIA? So, I mean, think about it that way, and I'm going to leave it alone for now. Let's go on to the first implementation of this architecture. It looks like it's going to be in the Nexus Tablet 8 that's going to be coming out later in this year. It's going to be Intel 64-bit processor. It's x86. And what is going to be interesting about this, it may actually be the same technology we just talked about, but beyond that, it's going to be really freaking fast. They've made x86 almost as efficient, not quite as efficient as ARM, but it's so much faster when it comes to web browsing. I mean, ARM, the problem with ARM is that JavaScript on ARM, not so much. JavaScript on x86, very much. Yes, thank you very much.
Well, it just has to do with optimization. We're not saying that ARM can't get there. It's just that there's so much x86 code out there. The question is, can Intel become like ARM faster than ARM can become like Intel in terms of how much work they can get done per clock tick?
Yep. All right, let's move on. I'm going to move a little bit faster now. Most of the rest of the stuff is interesting and fun, but we have some more Google news here. Google has decided to encrypt search globally, and this article says it's bad for the NSA in China. And yes, it is. It can be very bad. I mean, I'm sure the NSA is going to figure out some ways around it, but this is not a cure-all for everybody in the world, because Google is still going to be forced to turn over data. They can be compelled to turn over data based upon subpoenas and that sort of thing. So you're not totally safe on the internet based upon that. You should get a VPN, and then you'll be a little bit more safer. It's all about how many layers of safety that you want while you're on the internet. But it is really good as far as all the censorship goes. It's, you know, like in China and stuff. People in China are going to have access to stuff they've never really had access to. So that's kind of cool.
Unless, of course, China
Google
somehow
doing this. Say again?
I said unless somebody puts something in place to proxy that, which I could see China trying to do.
Yeah, or just turning off Google entirely, you know.
That's also a plausible function. It's like, why not? Why do that?
Yeah. And more Google news. Google has purchased Green Throttle Games. They make game controllers. So what do you think is going to happen with this? I don't really have many opinions on this because I don't play games on Android all that much because I can't stand touchscreen. Is this? I think this is going to. I don't know what the hell is going to happen with this. What do you think?
No idea.
You know,
what are they up to?
You know, this is one of those things. I'm like, I don't think this is. Well, initially, there's already these kinds of controllers out there. I mean, obviously they bought a company that's making these, but think of it as if you've got your phone, you know, you got to touch the screen to play the game. And you know, when I was in PAX in Australia, the SteelSeries actually had a controller. It was a Bluetooth-enabled controller. It was a little bitty thing that you could use to then, you know, Bluetooth to your phone, Bluetooth to your tablet, and you could use it as a controller to play games on that. So they don't really need to create something new. They could just create these controllers, or maybe they're going to go with the controllers and then have a dock for your phone, and that's effectively the same, you know, the same kind of thing that you'd have as like the Shield, except it's, you know, the Shield's running Android. It's a gaming device. It runs Android. Well, what if your phone could just suddenly be controller? I mean, it's an accessory right now, and I see a validity in it. I mean, there's a lot of games I know. I'd be like, dude, if I had a controller like this, or, you know, you get emulators and suddenly you're playing these old games that required a controller, and you're like, the touch screen is just not responsive enough.
And more Google news. Let's move on. Google has given British security officials ridiculous amounts of control on YouTube. Now, here's what they're doing. They're giving them something that's called the super flagger permission, essentially, and what it allows them to do is, or super flagger power. They can go on there and they can flag large swaths of video, not individual videos. They can say, listen, any video that has to do with this, no longer available in the UK, and that's totally cool. Google has given them this power. I wonder how much noise they had to make in order to get this power in the first place. And the second thing I want to talk about is, does this make the UK like? I mean, are they like China? They're freaking censoring the web like crazy over there. You've got the white list right now, or no, you got the black list, but now it's kind of they want to move to a white list, which is even more dangerous. And now this, where they're just censoring large swaths of video. And you know what, Wendell, you were mentioning earlier, you don't think this is exactly like China's censorship, because they're censoring for a different reason. So I'll let you go on with that.
I think that they're just obsessed with not being offensive, and it's gotten to the point where it's like, you know, there are well-meaning people that are like, oh, we need to do this because we don't want somebody to be offended, and we don't want somebody to be offended by this other thing. I mean, look at how much insanity they have over people posting mildly toxic Twitter posts where it's like, oh, this person, and then there's a lawsuit and blah blah blah. That's Twitter, you know. 140 characters. I mean, can you imagine how crazy they go over video? So it doesn't really surprise me, but there's definitely an element of, you know, with the well-meaning but perhaps a bit slow guys in the room censoring that. There's a guy in the shadows in the corner, and all you can see is his lit cigarette, and he's like, yes, we must censor all of the things, yes. And he definitely has darker motives than the rest of them, but it's like, oh, this video is slightly offensive, we need to hide it.
Hugh Kane.
I know that you guys are trying to do the right thing, but do what I say and it will all work out in the end.
Yeah. All right, moving right along here. This is something that's probably going to be censored everywhere. Popcorn time. Popcorn time is like Netflix, but totally illegal and possibly better than Netflix. A lot of people are saying it's better than Netflix because, I mean, go to Netflix and try to find some of your favorite movies. You may find 3 out of 5, maybe 3 out of 10, depending on how esoteric your tastes are, or just what your tastes are, because a lot of the stuff is not available on Netflix because the different studios don't want it to be on Netflix. They want to have their own thing. It's all a distribution problem. So Popcorn Time comes out. It's pretty much the illegal version of Netflix. The way it works is you download an application, and then it's got tons of stuff, tons of media, shows, movies, all right there. And whenever you watch something, the guy who created Popcorn Times, he's like, this is totally illegal because I'm not hosting any of the content. I'm just linking to torrents. So whenever you click on, let's say, whatever he's
not even really linking to torrents. Like, you're downloading a front end that can then be used to search for torrents. I mean, you could totally download this, and, you know, wasn't there a film from the Cannes Film Festival that was distributed on BitTorrent? You could download this client, and that one film you could search for, and it works just like Netflix, and it's completely legit. But you could also totally search for any blockbuster or anything that's come out, anything on the internet pretty much. This thing would find it and gives you a Netflix-like interface. But interestingly, this is what the consumer wants right here. This guy has built this. There's no ads. He's not making any money. There's not a way for him to make any money with what he's done. And it's just like, I want this so bad, I'm going to build it, and it exists. And these old media companies just refuse to deliver this in any kind of commercial way. And time again, we've seen that people are willing to pay for it if you give them an option.
I mean, Kim.com was forced to take down the executable file. It was being hosted on Mega, so he didn't want anything to do with this. He's like, you know what? I know what it's like to have guys in helicopters come to my house. Just leave me alone. I've got my new thing. I'm already ruffling enough feathers. I don't need Popcorn Time hosted on Mega, or Mega Upload, or whatever it's called, Mega.com, yeah, .co.nz or whatever. So it's now off of that. No longer there. It's gone. I mean, we could probably make another separate video just on culture and the distribution problem. Maybe that's what it should be called, culture and the distribution problem, because people love to share things and they love to have access to things, but it's so difficult. There's so many hoops that they have to jump through just to get access to the things that they want, and that's why we have things like Popcorn Time popping up. If there was a legal, legitimate way to do all these things, I bet people would do it instead of this. Anyway, let's move on.
I think your big blockbuster movie companies, they should just get together and buy the code, and then you can buy popcorn, and you could utilize it exactly as it exists now.
Well, yeah, they could utilize it exactly as it exists now, but what if there was a mandatory advertisement before and after every movie or something like that, and whoever the owner of the rights was the person who gets paid for that ad? There's no middleman in this point. You know, there's no Netflix. It's just an application. But whoever owns the movie gets paid on the ad. How about it? How about it, guys? Come on. Let's do it.
I don't think I like the advertisement model. I would rather pay a monthly subscription to this in the same manner that you're paying to Netflix. And that way, I'm already paying my money. I don't have to watch any branding crap. I can just get the content that I want. And I'm paying for it.
Well, it could be the best way to go. I mean, if you're willing to pay, then it's obviously the best way to go.
You know, it's kind of funny. I just had the strangest thought, but there have been times where I've been watching a series on Netflix or something, and I don't even want to wait for the intro. It's literally just sort of paused there for the thing. And the movies that have I refuse to watch movies on on a player that doesn't let me skip straight to the movie. Like, I don't know what it is, but I've gotten to the point where it's just the most irritating thing in the world. But also lately with games, like when I double click on a game and I have to sit through 12 seconds of intros anymore, I just leave the game running all the time. So I alt tab out of it, do some things, and then 12 hours later or the next day or 3 days later, I just click on it and I'm back in the game. Yeah, and there's no intros, there's nothing. It's just like, oh.
You've probably got one hell of a clock counter on some of your games, man. You're like level 99 on Steam. I played this game for 487 hours. No, I really just left it on for a week and a half.
I do think that I have over 1,500 hours in Skyrim.
How much of that is actual gameplay?
Like probably 35, 40 hours.
That's amazing.
Probably would have been higher, but Windows Update screwed me.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, man. How about some technology to make your phone 1,000 times, almost said 100, 1,000 times faster than 4G? Now, there's a company out in San Francisco, and the name of that company is, where the hell is it? Artemis. So Artemis is working on something called P-Cell. Now, what P-Cell is, or let's first off categorize the problem. The problem right now is you got 4G LTE towers, and the towers, they kind of interfere with each other if they're put too close together. And also, the people that are connected to these towers, you can only have so many people connected to each tower before it's just completely saturated, because each person has their own frequency. So that's the problem right now. So here's what P-Cell does. It works with existing 4G LTE signals, but it allows tons of crosstalk. You could just have multiple P-Cell devices. And by the way, the P-Cell devices, let me scroll and let you take a look at these things. They're tiny. You can put them everywhere. They're going to be putting about 350 of these all over San Francisco very soon, and then we will really see if it's any good or not. But these devices, right there they are, like the size of a router. You just mount them up. They're little antennas, and they're stupid fast. They only use 250 milliwatts of power. And you can, I mean, this is kind of speculation, but what were you saying earlier about the idea of how this is going to work, Wendell?
I think that I don't exactly know the math behind how it's going to work, but this is the problem that we talked about some before, where we've gotten some people emailing us being like, no, it's, we've glossed over it, so we're glossing over it again here. But with traditional LTE, there's sort of a negotiation, and then each phone gets sort of its own dedicated channel on a specific antenna at a specific frequency, and so there's no overlap there with LTE because you have, quote unquote, your own channel. Well, this is finally toward the kind of technology that we were imagining when we were talking about that back then, where you can have a whole bunch of devices use the same spectrum in a collision-free way. Usually, the way that you do that involves lots of scary, complicated math. So I'm gonna guess and say that there's some form of fractal involved here without even having looked at it, and that lets them overlay signals without actually interfering with one another.
Maybe you can use your new Ubuntu phone with that. The Ubuntu phones will be coming out later on this year. Priced between $200 and $400. Anybody getting one of those?
I've been heavily contemplating not getting one of these just because I'm not a big fan of Ubuntu. But there was a the idea I think that they had with these was that you were going to be like have like the Ubuntu dock where you'd have your phone, you'd run around running Ubuntu, you'd drop it in the dock, and suddenly you've got your workstation. And then you'd be doing something on the workstation, then you just pick up the phone and go, and it's one device to rule them all.
I'll say this about Ubuntu. Ubuntu is kind of the non-nerds flavor of Linux, but it's still Linux. So there's that to consider. All right, what else we got here on the list? We're almost through this massive list. We're into our hardware segment now. Nvidia, they've overhauled their mobile graphics line, and they're about to release the 800M. Here's what's interesting about the 800M. It's going to be, they say, Nvidia says, I haven't tested this yet. They say it's going to be the most powerful mobile GPU ever, and it's also going to use shadow play. So let's scroll on and take a look at that. There's the battery life. It's going to give you a little bit more battery life, but shadow play is what's really interesting to me, because historically you just really can't, unless you have a ridiculously uber desktop replacement laptop like you have, Kane, but traditionally recording gameplay while you're gaming on a laptop is going to melt the damn thing. But with shadow play, that's going to remove a lot of the overhead because it's going to be done on a hardware level on the GPU as far as all the capturing goes. Shadow play is also really interesting because it'll let you, it's always running in the background if you turn it on, and it can capture like up to 20 minutes of past gameplay. And if something really cool happens, you just press a button and all that, I guess whatever is in the buffer, I don't know, is saved to the hard drive. So that could be really cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, like before I got this MSI, I had an old, like, I had that crap Acer that I was running around with, and I tried to stream with that. It was
caught on fire.
Bad. Yeah. I mean, that laptop had a discrete graphics card plus the onboard Intel one, and it wouldn't operate very well. It was pretty bad. I mean, the CPU was crap. The graphics card wasn't that great, and it was pretty awful. Get into this MSI one, and if I'm playing Quake Live, which everyone knows I do a lot, if I'm playing Quake Live regularly, I can get that thing with a tweak on the configuration to 250 frames a second, and it like peaks and stays there. The moment I stream, it immediately drops down to like 140, and it will fluctuate between 140 and 90. And every now and again, something will hiccup and it'll drop down to like 70, and I'll start getting tearing on the screen. And that's just while streaming. If I don't stream, no problems whatsoever.
Well, the new MSI laptop here, since it does support Shadow Play, it should also support the codecs that you need to do the H.264 rendering on the GPU instead of on the CPU. So that should really help streaming. If you're someone who wants to stream on the go, this could be a cool way to go. Oh, I just made a rhyme. I'm a poet and was not aware of that fact. MSI did not pay us for this. Let's move right along. The World of Science University. This is really cool. I'm going to go ahead and open this up and just show you guys what it is. Now, science, America's not doing so good. A lot of the other parts of the world, if you're in Scandinavia, Finland, I think perhaps, you guys are awesome. We need to be more like you. We should take a look at your school schedule type things and see that sentence there that came out of my mouth sounded very stupid. It's because I don't live in Finland. Anyway, science is going crazy over there. And World Science U is something that's available for everybody. And what you can do is you can go on here and you can just watch lots of interesting videos. There are tons of cool videos, like what does E equals MC squared mean? And you can, start learning about science. Maybe get a little bit excited about science, and then once you're ready to take the next step, you can actually sign up on here and start taking classes. There's like online classes. You can learn about science. You can take courses. Some of the courses do require calculus and some advanced math, but you can take like quantum physics and stuff like that, relativity. You can take some pretty advanced classes right here on World Science U. So if you're someone who's into science, or someone who's not into science but is into some of the romantic ideas that science conjures, well, go over there and take a look at it, man. It's for your own good. It's for the good of everybody. All right. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Or?
I'm just looking at this as going, I wish I had this when I was in high school, because then I wouldn't have gone to high school. I would have just gone straight into this route.
Stay in school, kids. Stay in school. All right. NSA. Yeah. Every time I see NASA, my brain says NSA. The NSA is planning a trip to Europe. How about it? No, NASA isn't planning a trip to Europa. Have you guys ever seen the Europa Report, the movie?
No.
I don't think it's going to be anything like that. I don't even know if I recommend that movie. I don't know why I brought it up. It's an indie film about a bunch of guys who go to Europa and weird things happen. But, Europa, it's an ice moon, man, and there's oceans beneath the surface of the ice. There could be giant octopi. Is that what they call it? Octopi?
Cephalopods.
Cephalopods, right under
Cthulhu.
that. That's Cthulhu. And then they're going to bring him back, and he's going to run for president, and then we're all screwed. That's
Cthulhu versus Megatron 2016.
Yep, I'm voting for Cthulhu because he's from Europa.
Why settle for the lesser of two evils?
And I love Europeans. So NASA's going to Europa, and SpaceX, they want to send the biggest freaking rocket in the history of everything to Mars with a colony. And this is all kind of in speculation, but Elon Musk, when he wants to do something, he freaking does it. To give you guys an example of how big this is going to be, currently the biggest rocket had about 375,000 pounds of thrust. This rocket would have 1 million pounds of thrust. 1 million pounds of thrust. That would be ridiculous. Do you guys want to go to live on Mars? I don't think I do. I like trees.
I would like to go to Mars after they've gotten the terraforming started.
I'll go terraform it.
You want to go terraform it?
I'll go terraform it. Because what will really happen is I'll get over there. I'm going to put up a flag. I'll be like, I have a flag. Do you have a flag? I will tear down the flags. Be like, I have a flag.
Go a little Eddie Izzard on them.
It is mine now.
Well, hold on a minute. You've played Doom more than any of us. Well, I don't know. Wendell played a lot of Doom too, but
I played a lot of Doom.
I'm not sure. Between the two of you guys, I played Doom, but you guys have played more than I have. But you're saying that you are comfortable going to Mars after playing Doom?
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at Doom 3, they kind of explain what was going on. I wouldn't be the weird scientist guy, but I would be the weird scientist guy. After I take my physics classes at the University of Science University.
Science U or whatever.
I would definitely do that. Oh yeah.
In more NASA news right now. Look, there's a lot of asteroids out there, and one of them could just smack into the Earth and kill us all. Isn't that a pleasant thought? Well, NASA had that pleasant thought as well, and they probably went to some of the powers that be, and they were like, hey, listen, there's asteroids, and they're just floating around out there in outer space, and they could smack into us. Could you give us some money so we could track these things? Powers that be were like, I don't know. We've got to go blow up some buildings in some like desert country.
I mean,
so our money's kind of tied up. So here's what NASA did. NASA was like, okay, well, we're going to have to crowdsource this thing. So right now they're looking for people or mathematicians and programmers to create algorithms to help them spot just moving things out there. They want to be able to track them and spot them and predict their trajectory. And they've got $30,000 that they can give to you for helping. That sounds like a very low sum to protect the world.
Protect planet Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking that's a really low sum to hire a mathematician and a programmer. I mean,
can we borrow
depending on how long it takes you to do it.
Can we borrow some of the analysts from the NSA to help out with this?
No, they're busy crawling up our butts.
You know, that's what we should. That's what the NSA should be doing. They should be using all of this monitoring technology that they're trying to create and create a way of protecting us from space, as opposed to trying to protect us from ourselves.
I don't even. I mean, I've got no segue. There's no segue for this next article, but infrared's a very interesting energy source because infrared emits basically from the Earth and goes into outer space. We kind of absorb a lot of radiation. There's all kinds of weird things that go on. But at nighttime, we don't get any solar energy. So I guess we could still harvest geothermal and that sort of thing, but there is something that goes into outer space because the vacuum of space is a lot colder than our planet. So infrared heat and infrared energy is lost. So a team at Harvard said, hey, I wonder if we could kind of figure out a way to catch some of this energy and harvest it. It's a huge unharvested bank of energy right now. And it does require some strange thinking. It's totally against conventions. But it does look pretty interesting. I mean, we could harvest this energy, and this article kind of goes into it, but they have been working on it, and that's a very cool thing.
Okay, since I've been playing devil's advocate all night long.
Go for it.
We were only trying to do the good things. I mean, it's serious. You know, we see this. What if this has unintended bad consequences? Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Like what? I don't know.
You know, we're always. You look at any science fiction movie. They're always like, we try to do the right thing. You look at. There's always something that we tried to harness this energy. It turns out that we're actually harnessing the energy of blah, which actually caused this kaboom, breaks everything, sets the world on fire.
Wait a minute. I know where you're going with this. Infrared energy, we're only seeing part of the infrared spectrum. It's something that we can't see with our visible eye. And possibly that infrared energy could be connected to another dimension, and it could be a much larger energy source. And once we try to tap into that, we're going to tear a rift between this dimension and some other dimension. And
that's where Godzilla comes from.
Perfect. Done. Sold. I bought the movie. I'm gonna go see it. Give me a ticket and give me popcorn right now.
It is really interesting that the depth of the ocean, like the deepest part of the ocean, is basically the point at which the thermal properties of the pressure of the water, it no longer makes it no longer makes sense in terms of energy efficiency for the heat from like the Earth's mantle to be circulated through the ocean. And so I would say that this infrared thing and we took too much energy and now the core of the Earth is crystallizing and we're losing things and whoops and blah blah blah.
Then we have to go into the core. We've slowed the Earth's core. We have to go kickstart.
You can't go into the core. There's dinosaurs down there, man. Haven't you read anything?
I mean, but really, I mean that's one of those concepts. That you're like, well, what happens if? You know, we're always talking about the things that we noticeably see are bad, but this is like, this would be fantastic. We could harness this energy. What if What if it's not even our planet? What if that's very much needed in space? What if we start harnessing this? What if our atmosphere starts to dissipate out into space instead of the IR and dissipating it? I'm just
You know what?
now I'm really going for a stretch. I'm like, what if this is the worst possible thing we could ever do?
Right now, somebody who knows about this is looking at this and thinking of us like those crazy crackpots that thought the Large Hadron Collider was going to create black holes, and they're just face palming and saying, "No, no, you guys are insane. No."
I can't believe that I'm the only one drinking right now.
I've been eating Sriracha flavored chocolate chip cookies.
I think this is pretty cool, and it's probably pretty safe. So, and the only reason is because politicians are not in charge of it.
Yeah, we're just having a little fun because this episode has gone long, and by God, it's going to go longer, and you're going to have to deal with it. There's nothing you can do to stop us. Because
I love
you're
these
not here.
cookies. I'm gonna. Yeah,
I
made a video about this, so it hopefully will be edited and put up sometime.
A little how to cook Sriracha cookies video.
Yeah, it's an old chocolate chip recipe that I've had forever. Chocolate chip cookie recipe I've had forever, and I decided to add Sriracha sauce.
My
and they
problem
are surprisingly
with this,
well. Good. They're amazing.
My problem with this idea is that Sriracha typically has a bit of garlic in it. I'm not sure if all Sriracha does, but Sriracha typically, and it's fermented hot peppers.
Yeah.
And garlic.
Yeah.
That's what garlic and cookies kind of hurts my brain.
Well, if you're adding like garlic to it, but I mean it's the percentage of garlic that's in the actual sauce. I mean, you add like a little over a quarter cup of sauce to the entire batter. I made like 600 cookies. I have no idea. It was a lot. I made like 10 pans of these things. And what ends up happening is you've got the chocolate chip cookie that it's got a little bit of an off flavor that's not bad. It's just a little off, and the off part is the capsaicin that suddenly is making your mouth kind of hit this slow roast. I call it an afterburn because you eat the cookie, you're like, wow, this cookie's really good. And then I gave it to one of my coworkers, and they were eating it. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is a really good cookie. And then they're like, why is my mouth? Wow, it's gone. What happened? What was that? Give me another one. I mean, it's really cool. And I guess it was one of the cooking shows. They had to make a dessert, but one of the things they had to do was add a savory ingredient. And the one woman, she was like, I'm just going to use and add Sriracha. So she actually picked up and added Sriracha sauce to it, and the judges went nuts. So I was like, I'm totally doing that. I
think I'm going to add ghost pepper sauce to something. All right, let's talk about video games. Star Citizen, $40 million. How is this game going to be good? I have not given money to this game yet. I may be crazy, but I looked at it and I was like, man, that game looks like a lot of fun. It's probably going to eat up all of my time. Kane, tell me why I'm wrong for not donating to this game yet.
No, you're right. It's going to eat up all your time, and that's why. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, I dropped $250 on this when it was still in Kickstarter, and I got this Constellation class ship that's basically the Robert Space Industries equivalent of the Millennium Falcon.
Can I be your gunner? Can I?
Dude, it's got a ship. It's got a fighter ship. I can actually deploy fighter ships to protect the main carrier. I mean, this is amazing. So I'm really
someone else has to
about
pilot the fighter ships, or
I have absolutely no idea. I've never played the game.
All right, I'm going to jump in. I think I might jump in just so I can jump on the ship and then not pilot one of those things. That would be awesome.
That would be amazing, dude. I'd be like, hell yeah! It's like we got Logan's on the fighter ship. Take him down. We're gonna fly through and smuggle some stuff. I have no idea what I'm gonna do.
As long as it's Instagib.
Yeah, no, right. I mean, but it looks like a really great game. And the thing is, it's not only is it an MMO, but he's making a campaign. And the idea behind the campaign is that you basically join the military and you go through this military campaign, and that is the single player, not MMO version of the game. And then when you finish, you do your tour of duty, you get out of the military, and now it's like, okay, now what? Well, I'm going to take my creds, I'm going to buy a ship and go explore the galaxy. And with the some of the things that I was looking through the list of things that they've added to this, and I think when we hit 41 million, they're adding procedural generation of worlds and systems, so we can actually they're going to put a team together to guarantee the being able to expand the universe and discover more stuff. It's going to be
that is crazy. Ridiculous.
My janitor's going to come in here and he's about to turn the lights on.
Oh, well, we're almost done.
Yeah.
The last article here is janitor's coming in and make him stop. All right, last article right here. CryEngine is being used for Star Citizen. And Crytek just came out and said, listen, we're going to make our engine available on Linux. That means very big things for a lot of new games coming out. There's a lot of MMOs coming out that are using the CryEngine, and that's kind of cool to see. I mean, Star Citizen's one of them, but there's a few others that are coming out that look really beautiful. CryEngine can be scaled up and down. It really does a good job. I couldn't believe that it was being used for an MMO, but it's being used for more than one MMO. So cool to see that supporting Linux. That means better OpenGL implementation as well, maybe possibly Mantle. I'm not sure. It doesn't say that explicitly here. But we're going to see a lot of games like Star Citizen possibly on Linux now thanks to that. So that is very, very cool.
That's like 90% of the way to me converting completely to Linux for everything. Like I still use, I still use Premiere
Adobe, man.
And Adobe stuff. So the moment that Adobe can get on board where I can do do a Linux version of like Lightroom and Premiere.
Somebody needs to Kickstarter running Mac binaries on Linux, because that is a lot closer and easier than running Windows binaries on Linux. And at that point, Creative Cloud's on Linux, and all hands abandon ship.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's make
everybody
this
to Linux. All right, guys. What a crazy episode. And it's kind of awesome to have everybody here together. Nice long episode. And if you don't like the long episodes, deal with it. Hate all you want in the comments, but just, we enjoy the hate.
One of the things I always kind of laugh about, everybody always complains about, like, oh, it's so long. I'm like, I know it's long. I watch it every week, and I don't watch it all in one sitting.
We really should start looking into, we're going to have a podcast very soon. So this is going to be a podcast very soon. But I think a lot of people would rather listen to this in their car or on the go or on their iPod or their whatever this device is over here, this HM700 from Hi-Fi Man. They'd rather listen to it on this. So yeah, we should make it available in different formats. And we're working on that, guys. Very soon we'll have all those things in place, and then you guys can listen to it in a variety of different places. I don't think, I'm going to say something interesting here or something different here. I don't think YouTube is the perfect home for the tech. Maybe that's just me. Maybe, I don't know what you guys think, but I don't think it's like the exact right fit. We've met a lot of really cool people on YouTube, and there's a lot of people that have joined our website, and thank you very much for doing so. But I think our home is somewhere different. I'm getting a little out there right now.
I mean, YouTube was a solution to a distribution problem.
It's a good launch pad.
We'll probably still always be on YouTube, but we need other platforms. One thing that we could do really easily is be a channel on Plex. The Plex Media server, and then it's like, oh, it's in home entertainment devices and Chromecasts and all that.
Yeah, guys, I would really, really appreciate if you guys would go over to our website. And yes, I am driving you to the website. So everyone who complains about being driven to the website, you don't have to go there. But people who want to go there are allowed to go there. Let us know what platforms you'd like to see us on, and we will see what we can do about getting there. Whether it's Plex or whether it's Chromecast or whether it's a custom channel somewhere else or Blip TV. Or whether it's even building our own player on Tech Syndicate that we have total control over. And that's one of the things that always bother me about Facebook and Twitter and YouTube is we really do not have control over that. It's way more fickle than it seems, So that's enough of that garbage. Let's go ahead and end this episode and say here's to the next batch of episodes. Maybe things are going to change. I don't know. Who knows? Could be cool. So should I say something funny at the end? I don't know. Kane, you do something with your hood.
I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I don't know. I went to Jenna Tortures, man. I'm still excited about that.
Give us a sentence about how much you hate beer.
Oh, how much I hate beer?
Yeah, but do it in like a Senator Palpatine type thing.
Well, then lead me into it, so then I just run with it. Make some comment about the beer you're having, and I'm just going to go nuts.
Actually, this beer is amazing. It's a black IPA.
Wait, you said a black IPA?
Yes.
What is that different than like a white IPA? I don't understand this IPA thing that you've got going on, man. It's
just loaded with barley.
Yeah, I know. Barley is foul. It's like this bitter, disgusting. It makes I can't get it out of my mouth for like an hour after I'm like, oh God, why are you feeding me this? Get it away from me. Give me something. Give me a nice cider. Give me some wine. I like wine. Wine's bitter. Do you like wine? No.
Yeah, red wine's
it's gotta be the barley and the hops. Oh yeah. You just like hops, man. Maybe it's because you're like hopping around. I don't know.
It's because I'm uppity. It's because I'm uppity, man.
Uppity hops, barley.
She was only a whiskey maker, but he loved her still.
I like whiskey. I can drink a good scotch. I got a good scotch for my birthday.
God, there was a joke lost in there somewhere. Right now, I'm just going on because I don't feel like ending this episode. I'm sorry, guys. You're gonna have to deal with this garbage. This is utter swill right now. This ending right now is swill.
Yep, that's it.